Have you ever felt embarrassed for crying too easily? Maybe you tear up during a movie. Maybe your eyes fill in the middle of an argument. Or maybe you fight to hold it back and you just can't. And then the same old question shows up. What is wrong with me? You live in a world that usually reads crying as weakness. But for years now, psychology has been pointing somewhere very different. People who cry easily tend to share certain traits most people never develop. And no, it has nothing to do with being weak. It has to do with something much deeper. For generations, you were taught that crying was something to avoid. Strong people don't cry. Pull yourself together, it's not a big deal. But here's a detail worth sitting with. Humans are the only known species that produces tears for emotional reasons. Not from pain, not to clean the eyes, but from feeling. Evolution kept this alive for thousands of years, and when something stays in your biology that long, it's usually because it serves a purpose. Emotional tears aren't a glitch in the system, they're part of the system. So when someone cries easily, it doesn't mean they have less strength. Sometimes it means the opposite. The first explanation is about how you process emotion. Not every brain reacts the same way to the same thing. Some people hear a sad story and stay fairly neutral. Others feel it as if they were living it. Studies suggest certain brain regions tied to emotion show more sensitivity in some people. They pick up on emotional shifts sooner, and they feel them more intensely. Picture two people watching the same scene. One observes it, the other lives it. Same image, completely different experience inside. So some people cry more, not because they exaggerate, but because they feel more. Now here's where it gets interesting. Many people who cry easily carry high levels of empathy. And empathy isn't only understanding what another person feels. It's partly living it. That's why some people tear up watching a stranger suffer or hearing the story of someone they've never met. Their brain is replaying part of that emotion. For a few seconds, the distance between you and the other person disappears. And that matters because highly empathetic people connect more easily. They build trust faster, they read emotional states better, and they often become the person others turn to when they need to be heard. What some call too much sensitivity, psychology tends to call a capacity for connection. There's another piece almost nobody knows. Crying doesn't just express emotion, it helps regulate it. During an intense moment, your body activates different physical systems, and tears can be part of how it finds its balance again. That's why so many people describe the same thing afterward. Exhaustion, but also relief, like something came out from the inside. Letting it out isn't a scientific term, but it captures what a lot of people go through. From this angle, crying isn't a loss of control, it's your body trying to get it back. And this is where the story turns. When psychologists study especially sensitive people, they keep finding the same patterns. These people notice emotional details others miss. They catch small shifts in a tone of voice, in a face, in the behavior around them. They reflect more, and they feel more intensely than average. That has a cost, of course. They can feel overwhelmed, thrown off by things that seem small to others, and they may need more time to recover. But there's another side rarely mentioned. Because they process emotions so deeply, many of them develop an emotional understanding others never reach. They learn nuance. They learn to understand human suffering. They connect in a way that's hard to put into words. So it's no surprise you find highly sensitive people in helping, teaching, art, or caring for others. Where others see information, they perceive emotion, and that becomes an advantage in relationships, creativity, communication, even leadership. Society tends to admire the ones who seem unshakable, who never show sadness, who look fully in control. But the people who form deep bonds, who inspire trust, who make others feel understood are often the opposite. They're emotionally available. They haven't built a wall between themselves and what they feel. And that takes courage because feeling means exposing yourself. Still, it's worth saying clearly, not every tear has a psychological origin. Tiredness, built-up stress, poor sleep, hormonal changes, overstimulation, even personality. Any of that can make you cry more easily. Sometimes it just means your body hit a limit and it's looking for balance again. Crying isn't always emotional. Sometimes it's biological, and both are completely human. Maybe you've spent years believing that crying easily is a flaw to fix or hide. But psychology offers another possibility. What if it isn't weakness? What if it's a sign you're still connected to what you feel? In a world where so many people learn to ignore their emotions, feeling deeply might be rarer than it looks. Tears don't always mean someone is more fragile. Sometimes they mean they still hold on to something others have lost. The ability to feel, to connect, to be moved. And maybe that's one of the most human things there is.